everyone. I'm Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness, and I'm feeling a little extra sporty spice today. I am saying my age basically without saying my age because, yeah, I used to listen to the Spice Girls, but I guess they're still on the radio now. Anyway, oldies but goodies. I don't know. Anyway, I'm excited for today's conversation with Sarah Paasch. We met for coffee not that long ago. And I mentioned this in my Facebook post, but talking with her is like, her voice is like a hug to your soul. So without further ado, let's bring her on. Welcome, Miss Sarah. Glad to see you again.
Thank you. A hug to your soul. That's the sweetest compliment I've ever received. So thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm so glad that we got to meet in person. For those watching, it was a little bit of a miscommunication, and we went to two different coffee places with the same name.
It was perfect. Yeah.
You know what? It worked out the way it was supposed to. That's really all that matters.
It always does. Yeah.
It does. But anyway, you know what? I would love to hear a little bit more about you and your own wellness journey.
Yeah, of course. So I used to be a pharmacist. So that's kind of where it all started. I've always been interested in healthcare and nutrition. And I was really focused on the science and Western medicine side of health and well-being. And while I was in pharmacy school, I went to my first yoga class and I just went for like a good workout. Well, if you don't know, now you know. Yoga, I refer to it as like the gateway drug to health and wellness and spirituality. And that was really when I went into a whole new world of wellness, when I really discovered I realized I was doing the healthy things, but I wasn't actually in touch, in connection with my body and my spirit. And the way that once I started yoga, and then that developed into going through the 200-hour teacher training. And then I went deep into meditation practice while I was in pharmacy school. And so while I was studying Western medicine, I was practicing some of these Eastern modalities, and it was just profound. I was having profound results in addition to some of the Reiki and energy practices. And I don't know if you know who Louise Hayes is. Did we talk about that? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. The psychosomatic study of the relationship between our mind and our thoughts and any disease or dis-ease in the body. Yeah. Love her. And I just started experimenting with these other kind of woo out there modalities while I'm studying in pharmacy school and just doing it with myself. And I ended up having just incredible results. I mean, I was reversing chronic diagnoses. I was getting off chronic medications. My scoliosis was improving, which I wasn't growing. So they say that's impossible. So things that doctors and the Western medicine practice says is impossible, I was like proving wrong. And I developed this passion for it, and I've just been exploring it, and now it includes astrology as well, and that's really opened up a whole new portal of connection to the spirituality part of my life and my practice. And yeah, it's just a completely different way of living now, because it's not, I'm not doing a diet to follow a certain criteria, but it's more like just listening to yourself and trusting your intuition and trusting your body.
I love that. Yeah. Something that sticks to me or with me that I think is so funny is that, you were talking about woo-woo and Eastern and Western and all these, but the funny thing is like these Eastern modalities have been around way longer than Western medicine. So why do they get the woo-woo as opposed to Western medicine? Like the negative connotation. You know what I'm saying? It's been around a lot longer.
Yeah. I mean, because there's less money to be made. I mean, I think that's one of the things I struggled with when I was still practicing pharmacy while I was doing these other things, is that I was seeing how much there was this denial of these resources in that system. We weren't taught or trained in medical school to look towards those things or to resource people with these tools. And they don't cost a lot of money. A lot of the things that I lean on that I rely on and I think work the best, like meditation, like yoga,
Mhm.
or breath work, they're free. They're like, you can do them on your own. It's simple. It's like people want it to be harder than that. At least that's kind of what I saw. I was like, this is what are we doing? Like, why aren't we looking at this? Why aren't we studying
Mhm.
this? Why aren't we incorporating this? Why aren't we asking more questions? Like, guys, is
I
anybody? I mean,
know.
just profound.
Yeah, that's how I've always felt too. It's like there's all these resources. And here's the thing, like with medical school, I mean, obviously, there's only so much you can learn in one particular area. And it's like, okay, but you know what you know, but be smart enough to know that you don't know everything and outsource that. That's why there's such things as wellness teams.
Yeah. Yeah, the integrative healthcare field was something I was really interested in when I thought I was gonna stick with pharmacy and stick on
Mhm.
that route. Um, but yeah, I mean, we need to be open-minded. I think on both sides, and that's the thing is I don't discount Western medicine or
Yeah.
those modalities and those tools. I think both are effective and both are
Mhm.
important. And I'm excited because I kind of think it's the future. Like I think we're moving in that direction. I see it happening more and more. Um, and to not have this split, like it doesn't have to be one or the other. We don't have to deny one side or the other.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. It's not black and white and no in between. It's like, why can't you have both? You can have your cake and eat it too. I've never really understood that because why would I want a cake if I couldn't eat it?
I've
That
never thought about that.
it never made sense to me.
I've like never really liked cake, so I
Me
don't know.
either. That's funny. So something that comes to mind that I think is, what the audience would love to hear more about is here you are, you have this amazing career in pharmacy and you're successful, and now you're being pulled by the universe into
Mhm.
something that maybe doesn't make sense because to that analytical side of you. How did that feel? What was that like for you? Was it scary?
Mm, definitely. When it first happened, when the rug was kind of pulled out from underneath of me in terms of having a linear plan and doing everything quote unquote right in order to achieve that plan, and then things just literally falling apart and not working
Mhm.
out. Because even though I was experiencing all these things and enjoying all this stuff, I was totally fine with keeping everything on the outside of my life. I was totally fine in just staying in healthcare and not admitting to myself that it wasn't truly fulfilling or aligned. Um, and honestly, there was a lot of suffering. I was kind of like on my knees at a point where I was like, what do I do? What am I not doing? What am I not getting? And I was forced to ask, like genuinely, if you want to call it prayer or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
I was actually open for the first time, I think maybe like ever. And um and I remember I was staying on a friend's couch at the time and just really struggling to grasp what was happening. And something in me was like, well, maybe there's like a moon or something. And so I looked it up, and there was a major eclipse happening, activating my chart in a very specific way. And the astrology became this resource that gave me context and meaning and like a guidepost for what I was going through. So even though I still didn't know really what I was doing or where I was going. I didn't even know coaching was a
Mhm.
career option. I think maybe told you that before. Like before I moved to California and started my own business as a coach, I didn't even know that was a profession. Um, but the astrology helped me become a better listener.
Mm.
So there was less suffering. There was still a lot of uncertainty. There was still a lot of pain and confusion and discomfort. But there was a little bit more of feeling like that analytical mind had something to hold on to or something to kind of say, okay, like maybe it'll be around this time or follow this energy or lean into this. That's like I use astrology as my conversational tool into the plan, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna listen. I
I love
learned to listen. Yeah.
So let me ask a question that the audience is probably thinking, or at least some people, is okay, you're talking about astrology and not a lot of people know about it. There's
Mm.
got to be a huge difference between something that you read your horoscope in the newspaper versus what you do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're yeah, yeah.
You
Of
know?
course. Yeah, I mean, it's I love that, and that's also why I love giving people astrology readings and giving them that tool into their chart, because there's so much, right? Everybody has
Mhm,
what's called a natal chart, and it's basically like a screenshot of the sky the moment that you're born. And that snapshot is a moment frozen in time of where all the planets were in the sky the moment you were born.
mhm,
And then based off that on the chart, in the specific place that you were born, at the specific time that you were born, that gives us all of this data about your personality, about your career direction, your career environment, your style of receiving love, your style of giving love, how you like to have fun, how you communicate. So there's so much more than just your sun sign horoscope, right? Like
mhm.
everyone knows based off the day that you're born, that's what we call your sun sign. And that's like the horoscope you might read in like a newspaper. But yeah, there's so much. And then the fun comes in when we take into account what's happening today in the sky, because the planets are always moving.
Mhm.
And we can always predict their movement. Their movement never changes. It's always the same consistent change, right? It's the same cycles of time. And
Interesting.
that's activating your natal chart in a specific way. And that's called a personal transit. So there's a lot of layers and there's
Yeah.
a lot of information, and that really satiates that analytical part of me, that like
Mhm.
science nerd. I'm like, ooh, all the data. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Because I know that, some people might be watching or thinking, how could somebody who is a, pharmacist by education and trade, an astrologer as well, like that wouldn't make sense to have that science, but it does because there's, there's the science aspect to it. So I love that you explained that. Something
Mm.
that I was thinking too, as you're saying that, is people are always like, oh, it's not like, the planets affect me or anything like that. I'm like, listen, if the moon can move the ocean and you're made up of mostly water, you don't think that.
Honestly, like, bless your heart if you don't feel affected by the planets. That was the other part of it, is had never heard the word empath before,
Mhm.
at a certain point in my journey. And when I learned that word, I was like immediately healed in some big way, because I was like, oh, and I learned what it meant to be a highly sensitive individual. And I've always had this hypersensitivity to just everything. My intuition has always been heightened. And astrology was another, again, as a resource. I was like, oh, I'm not crazy. Like I
Mhm.
could feel that before I could put words to it. So
Yeah.
for me, it's kind of the opposite, where I'm not reading it to tell me what I'm feeling. I'm like, I'm feeling something, and then it's validating what I'm
Mhm.
feeling. And just like science, it's a process of discovery and observation. And, we have to live through it. And that's also what I love about astrology, is it's constantly proving itself to me. It's like a living experiment, you know?
I love that. I think that's a
Mhm.
really fun way to look at it because it takes a topic that can be confusing because it's a whole other language. It's science is a language, math is a language. I mean, astrology, you're talking suns and moons, and I'm like, huh? So, it's just but I love this idea of, digging deep and really, like you said, having it validate, as opposed to, a magical tell me what,
Yeah.
tell me how I feel.
Right. 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 And it's not definitive, right? It's like
Yeah,
multivalent, open-ended kind of question. And there is a mysterious quality to it. Like there
I
is
love that.
and I guess that's something I didn't note either when you asked, how did it feel? Like
Yeah.
when you're in that transition of not knowing where you're being guided. On one hand, especially when you first start that journey of
Mhm.
co-creating with the universe, in the beginning, it's terrifying, and everything in you says run the other way and just like get a different corporate job, just go to accounting. But I will say also, the more you lean into it and the longer you do this dance with the universe, the more magical it becomes. I mean,
Mhm.
I have had some of the most synchronistic, incredible experiences in my life since making this transition that they're invaluable, Like I don't even
Mhm.
know. And I'm like, my life is magical. Like
Yeah.
things happen to me that I'm like, oh my God, did you see that? Um, and I would never trade that for anything. I mean, it's like, it's the best,
Exactly. I love that. On that note, it is time for us to go to commercial break. So we're going to be back in just a minute. For those of you who are watching us live, welcome to the show. I did mention it's time for commercials, so we are going to be back in just a minute. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, you are watching Own Your Wellness. I'm Julianne Meyer, and my special guest today is Sarah Paasch. Let's bring her back. Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Yeah, I was thinking it would be more fun to have like both of us up when we come back from commercial. However, half the time people are busy like in the background and they need like some extra seconds, and they're like, it's really funny. Anyway, it was just one of those random passing thoughts. But let's get back to this topic at hand. We're talking about astrology, and the first question that I really want to ask you about this, because I don't know a lot about it, and obviously you do. But is this something that, I mean, how do you learn? How do you
Mhm.
learn about astrology even?
It's just like learning a language. It's just like mastering any subject, which it takes time and it takes a
Mhm,
lot of investment to really learn it. If you want to get to the stage where you want to actually learn how to read charts and maybe even
mhm,
read charts for other people, I would say start with a teacher. Find a teacher that you resonate with, find an astrologer, work with an astrologer. Step one is to get a reading, I would say. If you've never had a professional reading, that's always the first place to start. But there's so many books and resources and apps. I know when I first started learning, I was just buying any book that resonated with me or stood out, and
mhm,
I was just reading. I would bring to the pharmacy like 5 books at a time, and I'd have like my top 3 astrologers that I would follow and read every blog and watch every video. And then I started to take it more seriously and invest in real courses and just continue down that path. And it's a never ending process either. Like I'm still learning, I'm like, I know I'm ready to teach, but there's a part of me that there's so much I'm still learning.
You know what? That's really funny that you would actually say that, because I was just about to ask you if you do teach, because I don't know, the universe is telling me that that's your next step. But in the meantime, I popped
Yeah.
up the website. What can people find when they come and visit you here?
On the website, you
Yeah.
can sign up for the newsletter, and then you can discover there's a little bit about a coaching tab, so a little bit about my coaching services and the one-on-one coaching work that I do, and then you can go to the astrology tab, and that tells you a little bit about astrology from my worldview kind of standpoint, the different offerings I have, and some testimonials. There's an about me page. You can learn a little bit more about me, about where I come from and my background. And I think that's pretty much what they're going to find there. Yeah. Come hang
Yeah,
out.
I
Virtual
cyber
home.
stalked you, so yeah,
Yeah, you tell
I'll
us.
admit
We'll
it.
be fine.
It worked out okay. It's I don't know, it's just fascinating to me. But anyway, so you mentioned coaching.
Mhm.
What kind of things does that look like with you? Because that's a broad term.
Yeah. It's life coaching. So whether it's helping clients move through a difficult relationship dissolution process
Mm-hmm.
or attract their soulmate and work through their relationship patterns so that they can upgrade those. It could be somebody who's looking to do a career transition, somebody who's looking to just develop more mindfulness around communication and boundaries. Um, it's any of those things, but really at the heart of all of it is getting to the root and the underlying both what the underlying problem is, what's really holding you back
Mm-hmm.
underneath of that behavior. So going back through, like the root emotional trauma and memory and the somatic healing, and then also what's like the root desire, like what is it that you really really want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love watching people show up in a way where whatever it is they're doing, they walk away feeling really good about themselves. Like it's their success is not measured on some external bar or factor.
Mm-hmm.
It's all internally measured. And to watch people who just have a hunger to grow and to learn, and to just be the best version of themselves is just, it's incredible. And I've seen people do incredible things. It's kind of like they show up, before we start the coaching, and the
Mm-hmm.
coaching isn't this like, building them into somebody. It's kind of like we just take off one layer at a time of the things that we're covering up, what was already
Mm-hmm.
there, what's always been there. So they come back into this place of, oh yeah, like they get in touch with themselves in a way that is just, it's really empowering. And oh, I have so much fun. I love it. And I love getting people into sparking their passion too. Like watching people light up, I mean, I'm sure when you
Like
hear,
you are.
yeah, like this, like when I talk about this or like astrology, I'm like, I love it, and I love that, and I love the collaborative stimulation of it's like being in a workroom, I guess, like a boardroom, and you guys are trying to come up with an idea for the next thing you're gonna do for the company, but it's for this person and their life or the creative journey or their creative work, and it's so that's really fun part of it too when you're helping people with who are entrepreneurs and stuff like that is to like get
Yeah.
really creative and yeah.
It makes me think of the Buddha, the Buddha that they were trying to move or whatever, and they chipped away the top of it and there was gold underneath. Because they
Yeah.
put plaster of Paris or something, not that, but something over it because the country was going to war and they didn't want them to steal the gold Buddha. So nobody
Oh.
knew it had been so long and all the monks had died. And so nobody knew that the gold was under there. And then so they chipped away the top coat and there was the gold. I
I've
love
never
that.
heard that parable. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that story. It's very, I don't know. It's just, I mean, people use it all the time to like, the find the gold within. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that because that's such a good visual too of
Yeah.
what I'm talking about and
Yeah.
really like what I have experienced in my own journey as well. I mean, I never gave myself permission to look that deep inside
Yeah.
before. Um it was all, a lot of my decisions were based off conditioning and
Yeah.
based off survival mode, and what that meant, survival mode meant from where I come from, right? Which is different for everybody. But I never even gave myself permission to say, like, what do I really want? What do I love to do? I mean, I scored the lowest on those tests in high school and college in like the reading and writing. And I'm like, I love to write. I write all the time, like
Mhm.
I write poetry all the time. I love to read, but I was so disconnected from this part of myself.
Yeah,
And
I
you can
relate.
relate to that?
Oh yeah. So, real quick story. I was working in addiction recovery, and it was not a healthy job for me. It was a great job, but not for like who I am as a human. And even though I was really good at it, and so one day I'm like driving. They're called druggy buggies. I'm driving the druggy buggy, and I look over and I see this like cop car sitting there, and on the back it says that they're hiring. The sheriff's department's hiring. So I was like, oh, I'm going to be a sheriff because I'd be good at that and I'll make good money. And long story short, that didn't work out. And I was like, what am I going to do? I need to go back to school. And I had no idea what I liked. I literally had to go, and I'll never forget this. I went into my kitchen. I'm looking at all the books because I kept a bunch of books in my kitchen, and they were all, about, nutrition, health and wellness. And that was like the biggest section of books I had. It was like, hello, McFly. What do you think you like?
It's right there. It's been there the whole time. Yeah.
It's literally, and yeah. And like you said, here I am. I'm not even like asking myself what I really want. I was just trying to fill an immediate, like whack-a-mole. Like I need to switch
Mhm.
jobs and I need to make money. And I'd
Mhm.
be good at this. Well, why not? If I'm going to reinvent myself, why not pick something I really like and enjoy?
Yeah.
We're trading
And
our lives for it.
imagine a world where that was the norm.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think like that would cure war.
Yeah,
Like that would,
it
I mean,
really
that's a bold
would.
statement and I probably shouldn't say that. But really, I mean, I
Happy
also
people don't fight.
and that was the thing too, is I witnessed so much suffering, so
Mhm,
much unhappiness, and so much disempowerment around those situations.
mhm,
um, and struggle, and addiction is something I'm familiar with too, with my background. And it broke my heart, because once I discovered what I discovered, I was like, this is it. Like, if the people just don't know, they don't know they have the
yeah,
option. It's like,
yeah.
you can,
Well,
what, yeah.
it's hard to see options when you get so far down the hole, and that's kind of, I love that you help people. Lend the helping hand to help them see. And something that I heard you say that I mean, you didn't say it explicitly, but it's like, you don't need fixing. You already have it in you.
Right. You need remembering.
Yeah. You might have, some broken patterns, but you are not.
Right. Everything is learned, so therefore everything
Yeah.
can be unlearned. We didn't
Yeah.
come here, we weren't born into this world, doubting our worth and believing these limiting beliefs, and being really self-critical, and
Mhm.
like, that wasn't a part. We learned these things. We learned how to be hard on ourselves, and how to um, not give ourselves permission to so a lot of times to feel our feelings. That's another big thing that I think could change the world, is if we just had more awareness and permission, and intelligence around processing emotions. I think.
Yes. And that's the thing. It's like people, I love my dad. I love him so much. He's probably, if I were to pick a hero, it would be
Mm,
him. That's how much I adore him. And I'll never forget though, because my mom passed away when I was 14, and literally in front of me, so that was really traumatizing. But I mean, considering all the ways it could have happened, it happened exactly the way I needed it to. So in order to move forward, but the thing is I remember a couple years later, or it could have been years later even, and I was upset about something, and I was wham about my mom, and my dad said, "Get over it." I'll never forget that. I was like, I know it's been a long time, but there's things that I just didn't process at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, his thing was more like, I don't want to see you hurting, not get over
Oh, yeah.
it.
And totally. And that's the thing too, is, whoever helped us learn these things or not
Yeah.
learn, it's not their fault. Everyone's always doing their best with what they
Yeah.
can and how they're resourced at that time. So yeah, it's definitely not a path of blame that we want to go down, or
Definitely
any
not.
sort of resentment or anything like that. But yeah, it's just it's powerful, and it's kind of coming back to that whole thing, or it's really more simple than
Yeah.
I think we make it,
I think that's a really good point. I think we have this idea that if we want something really bad, then it's going to have to cost us a lot, or it has to be really difficult to get, it just in general. Like, I think about the book that Napoleon Hill wrote. What's it called? Think and Grow Rich. It
Mhm.
works. So why isn't more, if that's like such a popular book, why doesn't everybody have like $1 million billion? Well, it's so simple that it's like they don't even really give it a chance.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that though.
Yeah.
So I'm curious too, for people that are going through certain transitions or even difficult times, because when things change, it even if you want it, it can be hard. And what are some things that you would recommend that people try to do to take care of themselves, besides like sleeping and besides eating well, those basic needs types of things?
Yeah. So actually there's this process I like doing where you list your basic needs. Like, you have that really clear. And then your kind of just like standard self-care needs. What are the things that
Hmm.
you just kind of keep you like maintenance self-care? And then your like high-end self-care. So going through growing pains, self-care. And you might need to go into that list when you're going through those tougher times, either a tougher transition, maybe a loss of somebody that you love.
Hmm.
It could be a really exciting thing that's happening, but you're probably going to lean into more of those tools. Um, for me, it's also part of my practice is that I really don't think there's a generic prescription for everybody. I
Yeah.
really think that's part of what I want to help clients do as well, is start to cultivate an awareness that they like, what is it they're resourcing themselves. They're coming back to
Hmm.
asking and answering themselves. Um, but the first thing I would do is just, a daily check-in practice of just asking yourself, like, how are you today? Like, where are we at?
Hmm.
And just slowing down enough to tune in and say, what is one thing I need today? What is one thing I could benefit from today?
Hmm.
And just listening for that answer. I actually had, I just had like kind of a weird, wonky day yesterday. I think I slept wrong the night before, and I was just having trouble shifting my energy and getting myself into a better feeling mood. But for me, what my self care was in that moment was to say, I'm feeling irritable. And that's the exact right way to feel right now. I'm gonna go through the motions. I'm gonna do the self-care things that help me, like meditation, going
Hmm.
for a walk, getting outside, making sure I'm drinking lots of water. Do I need to reach out to a friend? But I'm not gonna judge the feeling either and like try
Yeah.
to get rid of it. Like, I think sometimes it's like, it's just maybe this is the right way to feel today.
Yeah. I love that idea. I love that. And then, what you resist persists. So if you're trying to push it down or push it away, it doesn't go away. It hasn't worked itself out of you yet.
I was just gonna say that's the other thing I would maybe inform someone about is, hey, listen, I know this is hard. You can do hard things, and this is uncomfortable. It's
Uh-huh.
not going to be uncomfortable forever.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it, you are going to be stuck in the discomfort of being in a place that you have outgrown. It's like continuing to wear a pair of jeans that you just clearly don't wear anymore. You've grown too tall. They're way too short. They don't fit. Like, we can't wear our middle school jeans as adults. If we did, we would be wildly uncomfortable. And so I think the same goes for when we're going through a growth spurt, right?
Mhm.
Evolutionary wise, I think it's the same thing. It's like either way you're going to be uncomfortable. Just pick which side you want to be on.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, do you wanna camp in it and wishing that things were still, another way, or being
Yeah.
comfortable and moving forward?
Yeah. I also love it makes me think of The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks and how there's a part in that book where he talks about the only difference between, and I'm like paraphrasing, but the only difference between nervousness and excitement is a deeper breath.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
So, I mean, I love reframing. It's like one of my
Mhm.
favorite coaching tools and resources. And so, if you haven't read The Big Leap, highly recommend it because it's an
Yeah.
awesome reframe tool for when you're going through some of these growing pains. It's like, then it kind of makes it a fun game a little bit. Like, oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
growing. Look at this. Look at
Uh-huh.
this upper limit. Look at this show up. So we can be a little bit more gentle on ourselves. I think that's the thing too, is that in the self-help world, there's a lot of like push yourself and be better and like, get in a higher frequency and da 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 da.
Yeah,
And it's like we can probably just relax a little bit and just
yeah.
just like relax into our body, relax into the growth, relax into the discomfort and just be present with ourselves through it, you know? It's like
Yeah. No, I love that. All right. On that note, it is time for another commercial. So we're going to be back in just a minute. All right. As I said, it is that commercial time. Thank you again for everybody who's watching us live. And for those of you who are catching us on demand, hello in advance, or actually right now for you. So we'll see you in just a minute.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
All right, we are back again. I don't want to waste any time. Let's bring our guest, Sarah Paasch, back to the screen. Welcome back. Yay. No more commercials. Yay.
yay.
So anyway, as their commercials were going, I always have a chance to like sit there and think about things a little bit. And, we're talking about growth and change, and something you said that I just really wanted to like point out is you said like one size doesn't fit all, like as far as things. And that's true for anything, including your diet, including your exercise. Just because somebody else does CrossFit doesn't mean it's for you.
Mm.
But while somebody is like maybe going through I don't know how to put this in the right way. You know how you were kind of like the universe was explaining to you that you were no longer going to be a pharmacist. And like the same thing for me, like when I was going through some of my iterations of like how I show up in the world, it can be a little, because you don't know what's next. It's like you're flying through the air and waiting for the next rung, and so what would you recommend for somebody like dealing with that? Maybe get a coach. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, one thing that came to me when you were saying that, by the way, about the one size doesn't fit all as well, was one size doesn't fit all versions of you either.
Oh, that's so good.
So what worked for you 2 years ago, when you were going through a major transition, might not be the same medicine you need today. So that's where becoming more, what is it, like masterful at just being present with yourself and listening to yourself, that's actually the biggest tool you could ever learn how to resource, because then your ability to adapt and adjust and meet those needs. Because I know for me, like even food wise, like sometimes my body needs more protein, sometimes it needs more carbs. Like I do anyway, so yeah, what's really interesting is I personally am going through one of those phases right now. And that was, I think we talked about that when we met up at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And, there's two things. One is definitely having a coach is huge. If I didn't have a coach to help me kind of stay anchored through that moment and to help me stay, because what happens when we're in those phases is, at least for me, I know that that's when my logical mind wants to do the most work, and it's the most unhelpful. It's when it wants to come up with all the answers and solutions, and it wants to hit the ground running. It wants to solve this problem, because there's a lack of genuine safety on a cellular level in my body, because I'm sitting in a groundless place. There's so much unknown. And so regulating my nervous system is genuinely the number one thing that supports me. So coming back to, it's not just sleep, but rest, like very genuine rest, slowing down. And for me, anchoring into routine is also incredibly supportive during those times. Like, what are the things that I can do today? And the things that are showing myself that I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm taking that next step, and what keeps me in an open and receptive place. So I noticed for me in the beginning of this phase, I was freaking out because I was like, well, I'm not getting any nods from the universe. I don't know what to do. Like, this is taking longer than usual. Like, what am I going to know? And I actually taught a yoga class last week, and the whole theme was sharing about this. We were talking about being in this space and how do we learn how to sit in uncertainty, and how can we lean into uncertainty in a way that shows that we trust that life has our back, that we live in a friendly universe, that we are taken care of and we are supported, that we are safe. And it was so funny because my whole point was that usually I get a nod. I'm like, okay, got a nod, gonna keep going. But I was like, but I haven't been getting a nod. And it's been really testing my faith in myself, in my, in life. And then at the end of the class, I connected with one of the students, and she just really resonated with the class, and she started crying, and then I started crying, and she's reflecting back to me like just how much of an impact it had on her. And I was like, this is a nod, like, here it is. For me, it's like staying humble and grounded, and just, that is, and honestly, when in doubt, be in service.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what's so funny? And I think I might have said this to you too, but I have this friend, Brooke, who I adore, and she is very in touch with the universe and energy. And she sent me this meme or whatever it is the other day. Well, it's been a long time now, but it said, thank you for this sign, but I think I'll wait for a more signy sign. It's like, oh my gosh, I've done that so many times. I'm like, I like your nod, but can I get a bigger one?
I need a bigger nod, and I need it in the direction that I was predicting. Like, I need you to go. I mean, that's kind of been, and and like, that's why once I'm in like I said, once my nervous system is regulated and I'm in a more grounded, safe container or vessel in my body, I'm also a lot more receptive to getting those signs, right? And a lot more, my mindset's a lot easier to work with and navigate. And this week, it's been the funniest thing because there's been so many like little things that have happened where it didn't go according to plan. I overslept on a nap on Monday and I was so peeved because I really wanted to get a car wash. And then I don't know if you know, but there's like crazy storms happening right now in California. And if I would have gotten the car wash, I would have been so peeved that the next day it rained and I didn't know. Or even today. I was like, I went to my morning Muay Thai class and I was like, oh, I'm running late. It was like, no, it was right on time because the coach was running late. Like, you know, like maybe it's all working out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I always think too, and this is like, I love this story. When I was a little kid, I was probably, 13 or so. And my parents have been divorced. They were divorced since I was little. But so my dad remarried really, quickly. And so my dad and my stepmom were looking to buy this house out in Maple Valley, which I know means nothing to anybody, but it was about 45 minutes from where we lived. And it was perfect. I mean, it was this brick house. It had acreage for horses, a barn, the whole nine. And it was perfect. And it was in the price range and everything else, but it just didn't work out. I mean, it should have, by all, it definitely should have worked out. And I remember being so upset, like down to my core. And then my mom dies like a year later. And I was so glad because, now I didn't have to change schools. I didn't have to I didn't have to blow up my entire life because my parents, my dad and my stepmom, they were still in the same town. So, I'd never been so glad. And that took, I learned that young. Like, it is sometimes a blessing that it's not working out the way you think it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer in that now because of the way my life has unfolded. But I mean, I think that's the gift of what time and space give us. They give us perspective and deeper meaning for things that maybe we can't quite grasp or understand. I mean, on one hand, astrology is a resource that helps me so that I'm not swimming upstream against the current of what's happening right now. I get to have focus my attention and energy in a way that is in alignment with what I'm going through and growing through. But it's like the second for me, what I notice in these cycles, because they come in cycles, it's like the second I finally surrender, the second my ego finally stops fighting and searching and seeking and grasping and struggling. Oh, the struggle, like just trying to get somewhere. The second I'm like, I don't know. And I kind of throw my hands up. It's like, then things move. It's like when I stop moving, then things can start to open up and show me. I'm like, here you go. Here you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing is, I just think too about my brother passed away about 9 years ago. And I used to be mad because he never came to visit me, and most of the people that passed away have come to visit me and he never did. And I was so upset. And then it took me and I was so closed off to the energy. I was so stuck in the idea that he wasn't visiting me. And all of a sudden one day it dawned on me that he had been this entire time. And I just didn't see it because I was so busy in my head about how he wasn't visiting, and he had been. And it was because we had this thing, his thing was Snoopy. And then, so yeah, it was all of a sudden Snoopy everywhere.
Aww. Yeah. And I even with death and with loss too, I think I feel like that's something I'm gifted with, is my interpretation and relationship to death and to endings. My father passed away unexpectedly when I was moving to California. It was my first time visiting California, and he had an accidental death. And, if he hadn't passed in that way at that exact moment, at that time, there's a good chance I probably would have stayed on the path towards pharmacy, or I would have gotten farther along and had to undo, something. And it was such a gift. And my dad struggled with alcohol his whole life until just near the end when he finally went to recovery. And it was like, on one hand, yes, it's of course it's sad. I miss him so much. And I wish I could, there's times where I'm like, oh, this is the thing I'd want to call my dad about, or I want to hear him talk about this. And also my connection to him now is so much stronger. Yeah. And he gets to be free, so there's always this, what relationship are we making to what we're going through? And that's one of those ways that we can come back into this place of empowered surrender, and on a fundamental level, what's our relationship with faith and with what's happening? Do we trust? Like,
oh, I love that.
When you look at life, it's pretty fascinating. That, not saying there's not hard times. There's definitely hard times, and we struggle. We all struggle, and we all grow, and we all fail, and we all fall, and we all have to get back up. But it's like we're always okay. Like, we're okay, Oh,
I love that. Yeah. That really hit home. And unfortunately, we're almost out of time. So are there any last thoughts or feelings or something that you want to share with the audience that you haven't, or even something that you'd like to reiterate?
What's coming to me, so I'll just go with this, is that it can be really scary to follow that quiet voice inside that's telling you, this is the thing I really want to do, or that's the direction I really want to go, or, I want to try or invest or whatever. And at first it can feel, everything in your mind can tell you there's no way to make that happen. But if there's a dream that's quietly planted inside of you, in my experience, it's like that dream was seeking you out, and you didn't come up with that. It came out for you. And the second you start following that, you do get nods, and doors do open, and the pathway does unfold. And so it's like taking that first step and letting yourself take that first baby step, that baby risk. I think say it works.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes too, people think the fear means they should stop. No,
it's usually a good sign you're going the right way.
Yeah. Well, I actually said this earlier today to somebody, but my cousin said this to me, and I don't remember who said it to her, but if you don't have a little bit of pee trickling down your leg, then you're not dreaming big enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that. Yeah.
But anyway, that unfortunately is all the time that we have for today. So thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, and everyone for tuning in. You're just such a sweetheart. It's great to be here. Yeah.
Yay. Awesome. So stay with me in the green room. I'll see you in just a minute. Okay.
Okay.
All right, everyone. The little behind the scenes talk in front of the camera, live TV. What can I say? Anyway, that is all the time that we have for today. I just want to say thank you so much for watching us, and have a great weekend. And we'll see you again on Monday, everyone. And if you're in Southern California, don't let the rain get you down. Bye.